I wanted to move to another topic. There was an article in the Times this week from Susan Taylor Martin. Tampa Bay still high in foreclosures, but delinquencies lower. And, Shawn, obviously, being a real estate attorney, the practices in this space where you're dealing with foreclosures and short sales, what are maybe some of the changes that people aren't aware of that have happened in the marketplace that are causing, less delinquencies, less foreclosures, but still Tampa Bay is high compared to the rest of the country?
Right, and I think one of the problems that we had in the recession was this theory that everybody deserves a house and we need to stop foreclosures. Well, there's always going to be divorces, there's always going to be loss of a spouse, there's always going to be medical issues, there's always going to be issues that cause foreclosures. So they're never really going away completely. But a lot of what we're seeing now, judges are starting to get keen to some of these arguments that would otherwise delay a foreclosure. And they're not buying a lot of those arguments. So foreclosures are starting to speed up again. A lot of the backlog of foreclosures is working its way out of the system. So it's getting harder to keep it slowed down. I can still keep something slowed down for about a year or so, year and a half, give or take. But it's getting harder, it's getting faster, the backlog's working its way out. Default rates are still high. Tampa was probably one of the worst hit areas in terms of the recession, and we're still taking a little bit more time than the average to get out of that market space.
One of the things that you said that I kind of thought of is, and I think it's almost a trend away from this, and not to get super political on the show, but you had said there was almost an entitlement mentality when it came to someone going through that process. Oh, we need to help them, we need to keep them in their home, and a part of me says, yeah, but they need to pay for it. That's what they signed up for. That's getting a mortgage. That's being a responsible person. Everyone has setbacks, but there was so much of that strategic default and all these types of things going on where if someone stubbed their toe, it was almost like, oh, let's save them from foreclosures. There's a lot of people that quite frankly need to be foreclosed on.
Yeah, I remember I do a lot in bankruptcy court as well, and one of the trustees who recently retired always used to say, if you want to stay, you got to pay.
Right.
And it was that mentality of, well, the bank did me wrong, and the mortgage company did me wrong.
And I almost feel like we've trended for a period of time. It was almost like that was the overall mantra for the country in a sense. And it seems like we're starting to trend away from that, which is a great feeling to know that look, not everybody should be a homeowner. Not everybody that goes into foreclosure or misses a payment should be saved. Not everybody has a valid reason other than a legitimate hardship, it's not always there, and there are some people that need to go through foreclosure, and that's Tampa Bay having a lot of them is just natural. We've got an older population, so there's a lot of them from that standpoint. Someone doesn't have a lot of equity, something happens, they pass, even by the time the property passes to the heirs, it becomes a foreclosure. There's no equity in it. There's nothing for the heirs to go after.
Right, and we had such a huge spike in prices and so many refinances that there were a ton of people that were way underwater. I think we are still, even though the default rate is dropping and the foreclosure rate is dropping, I still think we have one of the highest rates of just upside down homeowners.
Right.
And then you add all the others, add student loans to that, add credit card debt to that, add all that other stuff. And I agree with you. I mean, we'll slow it down as long as we possibly can so that we can find a solution for that person, whether it be keep the home or get rid of the home with no debt, no liability, none of that other stuff.
Yeah, I have something. I don't know. I'm sure you weren't one of these lawyers, Shawn, but there was many that advised not to pay on your mortgage, and then while you still can qualify, go buy another one. And so they had the whole
pump and dump. That's what they call it. Pump and dump.
No, for the record, I have never, ever advised a client
to do that.
That's good.
That's all right. That's why we respect you.
I will tell them what the consequences are if they choose to stop paying, but I will never give them advice.
Well, and I'll tell you,
it's
it's interesting because I really do think that a lot less activity across the board, scrutiny in the courts. So, and quicker times. If they don't have a million foreclosures and they're going to get to them more quickly. So it is a different place out there. If you're buying a short sale, if you're buying a foreclosure, if you're someone who's up against it, the situation, what you might have heard a friend or family member talk about that they went through a couple of years ago, or how they could delay it. And a lot of that, it's changed. Just because someone did it a couple of years ago doesn't mean it'll work today.
Well, we talked about the Mortgage Debt Relief Act, where you get taxed on the bank waiving deficiency, and how that law, at least for now, has gone away. So there was a whole segment of people and attorneys that were delaying, and they delayed it so much that now some of those tax benefits, tax exclusions have gone away, and a lot of those borrowers that waited and delayed on the foreclosure case, now that the foreclosures are starting to finish up, they may now be getting hit with some huge tax penalties because they delayed.
Right, because they didn't do it when that benefit was there.
And that advice has caused lenders to get a lot more stringent about people who are selling their home and buying another one.
Yeah.
They're putting a whole
Making
lot
sure-
of demands on.
Well, making sure the income's there to be able to support both, and
Yeah,
those
and
types of
you
things.
can't use a rental against the other property unless you have a bunch of reserves and all this kind of stuff. It's really gotten a lot tougher to buy and sell right away.